Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Art of Forgiveness Reading Circle. I'm Pamela Marshall. Happy New Year. I hope you're having a fantastic moment. Thank you for joining us. If you are on the replay, I appreciate you watching and sharing. If you're watching it live, welcome. And I am really excited about 2024 as we continue on this journey. Many of us who have been joining every month for the Peace and Healing Through Forgiveness Reading Circle. And for those of you who are joining for the first time, we welcome you. We do have a Facebook group, Peace and Healing Through Forgiveness. We invite you to join that Facebook group. Also, if you don't have your copy of The Art of Forgiveness, you can get an autographed copy by going to my website at pameladmarshall.com and start this process of peace and healing through forgiveness. I am a firm believer that this is where we get the forgiveness right here in every moment. The first scripture in the book is, "Great peace have they which love thy law. Nothing shall offend them." That's a work that requires so much of us to, so much work to do, understanding how to release. And I'm really excited to have as my guest tonight someone who has traveled that journey of releasing physically, mentally, and spiritually, losing 140 plus pounds, 147, and losing her husband, understanding that she had to let go of some things so that she could let go of the things that were weighing her down. And so, all the way from Detroit, Michigan area, Derisha, the Carver Prophet, thank you so much for being here with us tonight.
Thank you so much for having me. I am so excited and humbled to be here. Thank you.
You are also a part of a book that was released with some other ladies. Tell me about the writing of that book and how that's played a role in what you're doing in your journey.
Well, by surprise, I was actually invited by a good friend of mine who had kind of learned about my journey a couple years ago during a women's event. And she just thought that it would be so fitting for me to actually join the collaboration. The project is called Becoming 50 Something, and it is 4 authors, one being the publisher, and 3 of us who are brand new. Um, my story is called Becoming Her. And basically, my story just entails just me becoming Derisha by herself, just knowing who I am, just walking in, just love and forgiveness and what that looks like and what it has rendered. I don't give too much. I give a little bit without giving so much because I am also working on my own individual project that is my projected date is my birthday, March of this year.
Oh,
So,
wow,
yes, ma'am.
congratulations.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
So you um, something that so many of us struggle with. We're going to talk about your weight loss journey, losing 147 pounds. My good friend Carrie Knox in Jackson, Tennessee is watching. Carrie, thank you for watching and sharing. As we talk about health and wellness, Carrie is a retired nurse, but as we talk about health and wellness, my journey, her journey, losing weight, putting it back on, losing it, putting it back on. What brought you to the place of thinking that it's time? What was your heaviest weight?
My heaviest weight is so funny because I all this time I had been saying 411. When I was going through some medical records, I lost 5. Well, I forgot about the extra 5. So my heaviest was 416 actually.
And
Um,
how old were you at 416 pounds?
I was 35.
35 years old, 416 pounds. You were married. You had a child. How was your self esteem and all of that?
You know, man, shattered. Shattered. I kept a smile all the time. But I wasn't happy with my weight. When it got to 416, it was to a point where it was hard for me to walk without, devices. I was at a place where I was getting steroid injections, pain injections, medication. and it was just really, really hard to function. So it was miserable. My self-esteem just wasn't the same. Obviously, the outside, I did a lot of faking it. Like they say, fake it till you make it. Unfortunately, I was always a cheerful person on the outside, but on the inside, I was really just crumbling, honestly.
You do you think that what you're now able to talk about that a lot of people are feeling, yet there's this image of you have to accept people where they are and for who they are, but you were suffering during that time?
I do think oftentimes a lot of people do have a hard time accepting who you are, mainly because they don't know what you're dealing with, unfortunately. Sometimes we're so quiet because we're ashamed of the position that we're in that we don't speak out, when a lot of times we have people that are there and willing to help, but we put on a facade and obviously are not open to speak about what we're dealing with. So it's hard to receive help when you're not even honest with someone as to where you are.
Do you think you would have been, and that other people would have been more empathetic to what you were going through if you had been on substance abuse as opposed to the abuse that was happening at the plate?
You know, at one particular time, I did indulge. So I don't think that, obviously, if people aren't in that position to recognize it, obviously, if they're in that position right along with you, then they don't recognize it themselves.
Right.
But if someone is in a place where they see, and again, if they know, that that's something that you're dealing with, then they would obviously reach out for help. Again, I masked it. I didn't really speak about it a lot, and it's really funny because when I talk about it now, a lot of people that are around me didn't know that I dealt with that, or they always felt as though I was this bubbly person, person with a big personality that was always confident in everything. And unfortunately, I just wasn't. I just tried to be, whatever everybody else wanted me to be because I wanted to be accepted for who I was or who I pretended to be.
And you had been with your husband a lot of years.
Yes, ma'am. We were together 24 years and married for 17 when he passed away.
And how was that? How did that play a role in who you were as a person who's 400 plus pounds? You had a husband. How was the relationship?
You know, during the time, it was okay, but it was very, toxic, obviously, in terms of us not taking care of ourselves, because he was at one point overweight as well.
Okay.
And unfortunately, he ended up passing away from end-stage heart and kidney failure, as a result of his unhealthy behaviors. And then obviously a lot of it was genetic. So, but it was really hard and challenging because a lot of things that we wanted to do as a couple, it was hindered. Obviously, at one point, he was the stronger of the two of us. And a lot of things I just didn't want to do because I didn't feel well. And not just in the marriage per se, but just overall, a lot of gatherings that I was invited to, I would always make up excuses to not go because I just didn't feel good. And, I didn't want to share what I was dealing with, or even if I did, people don't understand if they're not in the position that you're in. So
Yeah.
just kind of digressed and I just didn't go.
And my sister from Harvest, Alabama, is watching. Frances, this is one of Aunt Frances' granddaughters. This is my sister that was named after your grandmother.
Oh, wow. Hello, hello, hello,
That's that's
cousin.
that's watching. Yeah, when we see people, and we are in a society today that we're seeing all of the health related challenges that you face when you're having weight loss challenges or weight gain challenges. What what was the point that made you decide that 400 plus pounds is too much?
Hmm. Well, when it was hard for me to walk around, honestly, just taking medication and not being to be able to function at my best, I got tired of just being like this grumpy, this grumpy individual. Um, and I got tired of my life just being um, limited. And I just had a talk with God. I said, I was getting ready to turn 40 years old, and it was very interesting. I said, I was at a turning point in my life. And I said, Lord, there's some things that's happened, and I just want better for my life. And I promise you, it was around my 40th birthday. And as this light bulb in my dining room is shining, that's just how the light bulb came off in my head. And I was just having prayer, and he told me it was time. And I didn't understand at the time what he meant. But then just deeper in prayer, he said it was time. He said it was time for me to go and forgive, not understanding what that was going to entail after. But once that happened, everything else just fell into place. I didn't realize that it wasn't just the physical weight that I was carrying, but it was the emotional weight, the baggage over all these years. I had been walking around just in unforgiveness, holding on to so much that had happened to me, and it wasn't allowing me to just be free. And so when that happened, I didn't realize some of the things that I was going to have to actually face head on. And when I did that, literally just the wind gates just started opening up, and so many different opportunities started to happen as well as a result of that. And that first year, I turned 40 in 2019. I actually ended up getting approved for the weight loss surgery as a result of my knees, because I was told years before that I would have to have replacements, but I was too big for them to operate on. And I would just literally tear them down. So prayed about that. And it was like, God was like, it's go time. It will render good results. So that one very thing that I did in terms of going back and literally asking for forgiveness and literally forgiving everything and every person that I felt had did something to me had opened up so many different things.
So you say that the Holy Spirit said to you that it's time.
Yes, ma'am.
When you heard it's time, was it's time to forgive, or it's time to let go of the physical weight, or do you think that was a simultaneous message?
It was a simultaneous message just like that, because again, it happened just like that. I had went to I took a class through Moody Biblical Institute, and I got a certificate as a biblical lay counselor. And so just during that whole transition, everything happened that same year. And I was like, you know what, Lord, I just want to really be used by you. And again, everything happened. It was just so simultaneously. And he said, it's time. So again, when I asked like for direction, he said, it's time to forgive. Literally right after that, I had already been to the doctor the year before, which was in 2018. And I had spoken with the surgeon, and they told me, you need this, you need that. And I kind of put everything on hold because I had just kind of lost confidence. I wasn't really just in that place, not really understanding that the reason why nothing would move forward is because obviously you have to be in a mental position and spiritually, emotionally ready to handle everything else that's coming. How are you going to go through this? So I'm basically, what I didn't realize at the time was all the weight habits the eating habits and things that I had inherited was a result of my emotional issues. Growing up, that's one of the triggers that, that was one of the things that I would lean onto when I had an issue. If I felt some type of way, we ate as a family, whether it was a happy event, sad event, emotional, and I inherited that. So I wouldn't eat a lot, but it was the foods that I was turning to. Mm. And that became a habit of mine. And so when he said it was time, I literally started going to therapy. I started seeing a counselor. And that's when I realized that I had an issue. And just that, again, that one very thing, it was like, okay, I need to tackle this. What is causing me to be in this place? What is causing me to be upset? Why am I here crying when this happens? It was because it was a domino effect. One thing affected something else. And it was literally really time for me to just let go of those things. So when I say relationships, my family, and they were like, what is causing all of this? Like, I'm literally calling people out of the blue. Like, I just want to tell you that I love you. Life is not promised. I'm sorry for anything I did. I just want you to forgive me. And literally from that day forward, when I say it felt like a heavy burden was lifted off of me, it was just like that.
So not only were you forgiving, but you were asking to be forgiven.
Yes. Yes.
Aha.
Yes.
Because sometimes when we come to this place of forgiveness, it's all about us forgiving other people.
Mm-mm.
And people forget that You've been living too.
Absolutely.
And for we all have sinned and fallen short.
Yes, ma'am.
And we need to ask for forgiveness.
Absolutely.
So as you're doing this now,
Mhm.
where are you? Where is your life at this point with your husband
Mhm.
and him being sick? And at what point did you all come together to talk about what you all needed to discuss with each other as far as forgiveness is concerned?
Well, during that time, it was interesting because we had had some challenges, especially, him being sick. The first time he got put on dialysis in 20 on I'm sorry, he got put on dialysis in 2015, and it
And
had
how old was he then?
he was 45.
Okay, okay.
So, um, he got put on dialysis then, and then he had emergency surgery in 2016. That was like life altering. And it was something, at that time, it was just like, okay, it's really time for us to, sit down and talk about things because I really didn't think he was going to make it. He was in the hospital for 6 weeks. And
Mm,
at that time, God came to me. Then that was the first encounter that I had as an adult where I literally felt God's presence. Like he shook me
mm,
and he told me, be still and know that I'm God. And I'm like, it was just really a challenge. I was working part time. My husband was pretty much the one that was holding the fort down. And, he's sick and I'm going through this situation. We had just moved into our house. It was just a lot of things that were going on. And during that time, we had a conversation when he came out of the ICU and everything. And things started to turn around. But it was kind of difficult because obviously, when you have behaviors that you have been doing all your life, you kind of lean back onto those behaviors. So things started to become challenging again.
so
And
behaviors.
in terms of like my husband, he was used to eating a certain way. And,
Okay.
so it kind of hindered our marriage, obviously, because I was just upset, and I'm like, you've been going through this for so long, I just wanted him to keep on pressing forward. But I think a lot of times they are aware of what's going on and they're not really sharing everything with us because they don't want us to worry. So it kind of caused a strain on us, obviously. And he did well for about a year. And it was kind of like the stress kind of took on again. But during that time, I saw him get weaker. And it was like, one of us have to be stronger. So
Mm,
the Lord literally told me, he said, you need to focus on you. I have your husband.
wow.
And again, it was just like it's life or death here. My daughter, it was only us three. And I'm like, somebody has to be the one to take care of the household. So during those years, again, it was challenging, but it was just like, we had spoke about forgiving each other and things of that nature, because again, it's hard when you have a sick spouse and you're trying to understand what they're going through. You don't understand it because you're not in their shoes, but you're going through with them. But the emotional part of it all, you're not in their physical form.
Yeah.
So, having to go to dialysis and your life is dramatically changing, you don't understand it at the time. Um, and it's like you just have to learn to give them grace and ask God to just show you how to love them through that. And it was a process, a long 6 years, but at the end, we were like best friends. Or before the end. It was
So
hard, but
so was your weight did your weight loss journey start? How long had it started prior to your husband passing?
so literally it had started a few times before that, but I would always come to a halt because I had always taken care of everybody else, right?
Mm,
And not put myself first. And that was the problem. I'm always my daughter's mom, my husband's wife. So every time I would start working out or anything, he'd go in the hospital and things of that nature. So it would physically go up and down. And I had lost a mere like 50 pounds on my own, and then it went back up. And during that time that he went into the hospital in 2016, I was literally on a scooter riding through the hospital to go see him. That's how bad it was.
mm,
And so it was to a point where, again, I couldn't really care for him like I needed to because I was hurting myself. And so those few years when he came out, it was like a household change. I knew that he couldn't eat certain things. So I literally would shop different and do different things. But then again, the behaviors kind of just went back. So my weight loss throughout those years were kind of an up and down thing until that time.
Derisha Prophet is the author of a book about becoming 50, and will be writing and is in the process of writing another book to share her journey of weight loss, of the loss of her husband during COVID, of having to take care of herself by herself.
Yes, Lord.
And that process kind of started before your husband passed, when the Holy Spirit spoke to you and said, "You got to take care of you."
Yes, ma'am.
You think that was preparing you for
Yes.
being by yourself now?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. He's literally shown me. Um, and that's all to be, in my book, but he literally just gave me a lot of things. He was preparing me the whole time, even like relocating me to another position. Right after I had my knees replaced, literally like my knees, I had the weight loss surgery in 2019, and I went back in 2020. I had the left knee replaced. I wasn't supposed to get the right one done. Well, I was supposed to get it done, but it wasn't set up that way initially. Went right back in 3 months later and had the right one done. And literally, God just literally put me in a position to be physically, mentally, and spiritually capable to be able to travel this journey right now alone.
Yeah, Derisha, what do you say to people today? Because there's, when I think about weight loss, it's not about what you look like, but it's about your health. And my friend Carrie and I were talking today, and she says, "I'm loving this. Derisha is a brave woman." Carrie, I'd like for you to put in there what you think is brave about what she's done that has helped you or could help some other people. So, Derisha, when you're talking about weight loss, um, then you lose your husband, how have you gotten through this process of all of these things happening? Because losing 147 pounds is not easy.
It's not.
Keeping 147 pounds off is not easy.
It is not.
What, how much more do you plan to lose?
I want to lose about 80 more pounds.
About 80 more pounds.
Mm-hmm.
So over 200 pounds that you will lose.
Yes, ma'am.
What's the toughest thing about living in this society and this journey that you're on?
The toughest thing is just staying focused and continuing to create a balance. It's so much that's going on right now that oftentimes we tend to focus on so much of the other things that we don't continue to put ourselves first. And that's the main thing I'm learning. What I've learned. I have to put myself first in order to help someone else, because I can't pour from an empty cup.
Yeah.
So learning to set boundaries and literally just staying motivated no matter what, and just continuing to go forward, whatever that looks like. Obviously, your mindset has to change as well, and your relationship with triggers. So I stay in tune with my therapist. I continue to see my therapist as well, because I always want to make sure I got my tune-ups going on.
Yeah, yeah. And part of the grieving process can be depression. How did you manage that? Because I'm sure that part, as you spoke earlier about, if something went wrong in your life, you go to eat.
Mm-hmm.
So how were you able to balance that? How long has your husband been gone?
2 years. September made 2 years.
2 years.
Mm-hmm.
What has been the what has given you the strength to not go back completely to what you were doing before in the process of getting through the loss of your husband?
Working out, honestly. I go to the gym. I haven't I used to go to the gym like almost every other day. Um Working out, like literally, I take a lot of pictures of myself also. I know people probably get tired of me. I take pictures and I post them, but it's just a reflection of where I was and where I am right now. Just just thanking God, just being in this position where, you know, in a position that I never thought that I would be in. So I love going out and just looking at different sceneries, and mainly just literally the treadmill has become a good friend of mine. So I'm always encouraging other people. That those two things in itself are just literally my life. I just love encouraging people. I don't care where I am. If I see somebody just in a position, I'm always willing to encourage them to do something, just as long as they don't give up. So it makes my heart smile to know that I put somebody in a different position or put a smile on their face to give them a sense of hope that they can do whatever that they want to do as long as they don't give up.
Yeah, Ricardo says, what a powerful story and a strong journey to listen to. Many blessings on your next steps
Thank
and
you.
many congratulations on how far you've come.
Thank
Ricardo, who too has been on his journey. And Ricardo, I thank you very much
you.
for
Yes.
watching. As I mentioned earlier, Carrie Knox said, I'm loving this. Derisha is a brave woman.
Thank
Do
you.
you think you're brave?
I think I am. I think I am.
What's brave about what you're doing that you can say to other people that they can do too?
Not knowing what tomorrow brings, or not knowing,
Mm.
but just taking a step of faith and just saying, here I am.
Do you ever worry about putting it all back on?
No,
Okay.
no. I remember again, that's why I take so many pictures because, um, oh, I remember what it was like when I couldn't walk up and down the stairs. I remember when I couldn't put on a pair of heels, or I remember when I couldn't show up to things because I didn't like the way I looked, or my leg was crooked, or just couldn't stand up for a long period of time. I remember when those things were a challenge for me.
And you were a young woman.
I was. I
Well,
was.
you're still young.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. And I mean, I mean, my family laughs at me because when we go places, I'm always the one like, I'll go do it, and I'm just pretend I start running, or, even when I serve at church, my pastor, my first lady are always like, oh, just go ask Derisha, she'll do it. I'm just willing. I just love to be able to help someone. If I'm at the grocery store and I see somebody in a buggy, I mean, a scooter, I'm like, I'll get that for you because I know what it was like. I know what it was like. And I don't ever want to go back there. And I'm going to continue to do whatever I can to make sure that I don't.
Carrie said the fact that she was able to keep going after her husband passed and to continue with her weight loss journey is the epitome of bravery.
Thank you.
She could have easily fell into a deep depression and no one would have blamed her.
You know, one thing that I will say that helped me through that too, my husband and I had a lot of conversations. And, being with somebody that long, I've been with my husband since I was 18 years old. So just knowing that he was, towards the end, and I would ask, we would have those conversations. They were very uncomfortable. And, but in actuality, it was just something that had to happen. And I remember asking him, not even 2 weeks before he passed away, and I said, well, what am I supposed to do without you?
Hmm.
He said, you're going to keep going. You got to keep going. So I literally say this, a lot of times when I don't feel like it, a lot of times that I'm like in a position where I'm just like, oh, I literally hear that little voice in my head saying, keep going. So it's the same thing I tell everybody else. No matter how you feel, it's light at the end of the tunnel. Your journey will inspire someone else, no matter what the situation. Like the things that we go through are not always for us, but it's to help somebody else. So I've always been that person to want to help encourage and uplift and inspire somebody else to just keep on going. So if I can do that by just taking one step today, then I'm going to do that.
Well, you have definitely inspired us today. Derisha Prophet, who has lost over 147, 140 pounds, 147, I think, and working through all of this, through the loss, the death of her husband that she had been with since she was 18 years old, writing a book to continue to tell her story, to inspire all of those who hear her story and read this. Go back and watch this whole interview. If you are just joining us, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for sharing. And how tell people how they can get in touch with you and get the book that you already are a part of, Derisha.
So they can reach me. I have a website, and it's www dot I'm sorry, growandglowconnect.co. Sorry, www.growandglowconnections.co. You can also reach my email address is growandglowconnectionsllc.com.
Derisha, again, thank you so much for your bravery.
Thank you.
Thank you for your stick to itiveness.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you for being available to hear the prompting of the Holy Spirit that has led you and continue to guide you on this path of peace and healing through forgiveness, physically, mentally, and spiritually.
Thank you.
All the way from Detroit, Michigan. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me, cousin. I appreciate you so much.
I do appreciate you, and I thank all of you for watching. Whether you're watching on YouTube, LinkedIn, or Facebook, please like and share. And in this season, feel free to go to my website to get your copy, autographed copy of The Art of Forgiveness and Expression of Peace. And we are so looking forward to Derisha's book. And as soon as it's finished and as soon as it's published, you make sure you give me a call to
Yes,
say,
ma'am.
cousin, it is available and I'm ready for my next interview.
Yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
you make sure
Yes,
you do that.
will do. Will do.
Kendra, thank you for watching. And Kendra, we need to do an interview on your book. I'm looking forward to talking to you and interviewing you about your book. Again, everybody, thank you so much for joining us. I'm Pamela Marshall at Wellness Radio TV and at the Wellness Radio TV podcast. Remember, there is healing at the well. Make it a fantastic moment. We'll see you next time. Blessings